What if I told you that fire, the very thing that warms us, cooks our food, and lights our nights, was once stolen by a bird? Not just any bird, but one clever and brave enough to change the world forever. Save this episode if you can't listen now and follow for more. In the ancient oral traditions of Australia's Aboriginal peoples, there is a powerful story about how fire first became something that could be shared. In those distant times, fire was not a gift given freely. It belonged only to a mysterious group known as the Fire People. These beings lived apart from others, surrounded by flame, using bark torches to keep the fire alive. They danced in circles of light, kept to themselves, and never allowed anyone else to learn their secret. Without fire, life for the rest of the world was cold and difficult. The nights were long and dark, food had to be eaten raw. Children shivered through the seasons, no one knew warmth or light beyond what the sun gave during the day. Among those who suffered was Crow, a white-feathered bird with sharp eyes and a restless mind. He watched the Fire People with growing curiosity. From treetops and riverbanks, he observed their rituals. He saw the way they guarded fire, how they danced around it and laughed in its glow. Crow began to wonder why such a powerful thing was kept from others. Why should a few hold something that could help so many? Determined to change that, Crow began to watch them more carefully. He noticed that during special dances near the river, the Fire People would leave their torches on the ground, glowing softly as they moved away. It was only for a moment, but it was enough. Crow waited patiently. He didn't act in anger. He acted with intention. One evening, as the Fire People began their sacred dance, Crow saw his moment. He dove from the sky with a silent rush of wings. In an instant, he landed near a torch and clutched the burning stick in his beak. The fire was hot, smoke rose quickly, but Crow took flight before anyone could stop him. He flew fast and high, sparks scattered from the torch, landing on trees and dry grass. Little fires started where they fell. The world below began to glow for the first time. Light spread across the land. People looked up in awe and amazement. But the fire was heavy and the heat burned. Crow's white feathers turned black with smoke and ash. His wings ached, but he didn't stop. He flew far from the Fire People and finally dropped the torch where those without fire could reach it. Flames caught quickly and the people gathered, feeling warmth for the first time. Crow landed nearby, exhausted and changed forever. His feathers were no longer white. He was now the black crow we know today. But he had no regrets. He had given fire to the people. From that day on, crows were known as the birds who brought fire to the world. And when you hear them call at sunset, some say it's a reminder of the sacrifice one bird made for the good of all. The moment fire spread beyond the Fire People's control, everything began to shift. Save this episode if you can't finish it now and follow to keep exploring the legends that shaped our world. The people who received Crow's gift were amazed. For the first time, they felt warmth during the cold nights. They cooked food, lit up the darkness, and gathered around the flames, sharing laughter and stories. Fire became more than a tool. It became a symbol of life, of comfort, of transformation. But far away, the Fire People were not celebrating. They had sensed the change. Their torches no longer burned with the same strength. A different kind of heat was rising in the land. They followed the trail of sparks, traced the wind, and discovered the truth. Their sacred flame had been taken, and it was now burning in the hands of those they believed unworthy. Outraged, the Fire People gathered in a great circle. Their voices crackled like firewood. They saw the act not as sharing, but as betrayal. For generations they had guarded fire. To them, it was not just energy, but spirit. They believed that only they had the wisdom to hold it, and now that power had escaped, they vowed to reclaim it. Meanwhile, Crow was changing. Though the people honored him, he felt different. His white feathers were now black, his wings ached from the long flight, and his body carried the scent of smoke. He flew over villages and forests, watching how fire had spread. It was everywhere, in kitchens, on torches, even in games and celebrations. Some used fire with care, others did not. Trees burned where they shouldn't, animals fled from scorched fields. Crow began to worrying. Maybe the fire people had a point. Maybe fire in the wrong hands could bring more pain than warmth. Then the earth shook. The fire people arrived, their bodies glowed. Their eyes burned with fury. They did not come quietly. The ground hissed beneath their feet. They stood before the people and made their demand clear: return the fire or lose everything. The people trembled, but they stood together. Fire had become part of them. They would not give it back. Crow flew between the two sides. He tried to speak, to calm the rising heat. But pride is a fire too. It spreads fast. It refuses to listen. Then an old woman stepped forward. She had been sitting near the fire, silent and calm. She raised one hand. Everyone paused. Even the flames seemed to stop and listen. She said the fire was not stolen. It was needed. It had saved lives. Yes, some had used it poorly. But all learning begins with mistakes. Even the fire people had once learned through failure. She said fire should not be hidden. It should be taught, shared with care, guided with wisdom, not feared, not locked away. Her voice stayed in the air like smoke. The fire people said nothing. Their flames dimmed, no longer roaring but flickering low. The flames had dimmed. The world stood still. Save this episode if you can't finish now and follow to hear the final chapter of this ancient tale. The old woman's words drifted into silence. Around her, people waited. The fire people stood tall and glowing, their faces unreadable. The sky above, once heavy with smoke and sparks, was now quiet. Everyone knew that whatever happened next would shape the world forever. At last, the leader of the fire people stepped forward. His skin shimmered like hot stone. His eyes scanned the faces of those gathered. He did not speak in anger. Instead, he looked at the old woman and said, "If we teach you to honor fire, will you promise to protect it?" The people nodded. No one spoke. They knew fire was powerful. They had seen its beauty and its danger. They were ready to learn. The fire people lowered their torches. Their flames, once fierce and guarded, softened. With slow movements, they stepped toward the village and placed their fire into the center of the gathering. Then they sat beside the people, for the first time as equals, not as keepers of a secret. That night, a new kind of fire burned. It was not stolen, not controlled. It was shared. The fire people taught the villagers how to tend it, how to keep it from growing wild, how to use it to help rather than harm. The people listened. They asked questions. They practiced patience. And Crow, he watched from a branch above. His black feathers still held the marks of his journey. He had started something he couldn't control. But now, seeing people and fire people side by side, he felt peace. He called once into the night sky and flew high above the firelight, no longer needing to carry the flame alone. Time passed. The fire people eventually returned to their lands, no longer as guardians of power, but as teachers, remembered with respect. The people carried the knowledge forward. They taught their children how to light fire for warmth, how to cook with care, how to never forget the cost of that gift. And as for Crow, his legend spread across the land. He became a symbol of courage, of sacrifice, of change. People began to leave small pieces of food near fires as a thank you to the bird who gave them light. They told his story to children at sunset, and every time a crow cawed in the distance, someone would look up and smile, remembering. So when you see fire tonight, When you feel its warmth or watch its light flicker in the dark, remember this: it once belonged to a few, then to one brave bird, and now to all who use it with care. If you enjoyed this story, save it, share it, and follow for more. Because the world is full of legends waiting to be told.